Right, we're going to continue with some of those practical implementation issues that we kicked off on last night. And it's a great pleasure to welcome Lianne Levenstein, CEO of EconoBEE. Lianne, always good to have you on the show.
Hey, thank you very much.
Also in studio is Jeff Morley, the BEE Guru, founder of the BEE Guru. Jeff, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And on the line from Cape Town, Duncan de Groot, who heads up the private energy division and is also the group executive of the rating network at Carvel Capital. Duncan, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, thanks for inviting me.
Lianne, kick us off tonight. We had Zodwa and Thuli sharing the Commission's work with us last night. The fact that they're going to be looking a lot more closely at non-compliance, following on from what Trade and Industry Minister Rob Davies was saying. The fact that so far, for companies with a year end of 31st December, only 27 listed companies have filed with the Commission. So quite a few companies out there that still need to file. But overall, what's your sense when you advise clients in the market? What's your sense with regards to the response so far to the amended codes?
Yeah. Well, you see, let's actually be completely fair. The codes have actually been around for a very long time now. They are a lot more stringent than they used to be, but being around for so long, in the beginning, a lot of companies were saying, okay, it's too difficult. We've got the priority elements, we've got a different points to level table, and because that's going to be more difficult for us, we might pull back. What I'm starting to see is that more and more companies are still actually getting a certificate. Even though it's more difficult, they've just changed the level basically that they would be targeting. So on the old scorecard where you could easily get a level 6, they're now looking at a level 8 to start off with. And like we saw back in 2009 when the codes first came out, 2007 when the first codes came out, companies started with a level 8 and they slowly improved from that. I still remain positive. It's a bit disheartening to hear that there's so few companies, especially the JSE listed companies, who haven't actually done the compliance reports to the BEE Commission that they were supposed to. I suppose we can only see an improvement.
Jeff, when you look at the response to the codes, as Lianne said, they have been with us for some time now. What are your clients saying?
Most of my clients have gone out proactively to see how they can do the best they can. And some of them have achieved fantastic scores. The codes aren't that difficult, the new codes. If you prepare yourself and you focus on what they're asking of you and you look at how you can achieve it.
How would you break it down to say that it's not that difficult? If we just had a look at these few key factors, then actually it's eminently sensible and achievable to do what we're doing.
Most of your larger companies have some form of black ownership. So you've covered that point there. Your EE perspective of the management control aspect, by now you should have developed people within your organization to have fulfilled junior, middle and senior management roles, as well as executives. I mean, from 2007 till now, or from 94 till now, we should have got things in place already. Not everywhere, but a lot of companies have. Your skills development is, if you just follow what they're asking you, you're going to develop people inside your company, and they're asking you to develop unemployed people as well. Do it correctly, have a plan, and somewhere along the line you're going to develop people within your company. You're not going to not do any skills development. Also look at what you are doing already and how they apply to the skills matrix.
Because companies are already doing a lot of things that comply with the codes, perhaps on the skill side, where they don't actually quite realize that they can be getting points for what they do.
Quite correct. And they're not looking at the intervention, what they're doing, and how they could get more points than what they are getting.
Duncan, I'd like to bring you in here because I know it's been topical for the last week following comments that were made by Stefan Sakashe, who heads up the EU Chamber of Commerce, saying it seemed vague and confusing. All of a sudden now they were being told that they need to be 51% black-owned in order to secure a tender with a state-owned enterprise. Is that fair critique? Is that perhaps Stefan misunderstanding the difference between the codes and the FMA?
I think it depends on on what type of approach companies are taking. Just before we go into that, to reverse back and just have my views on what my view has been on companies complying. I think it also depends on what type of company we're talking about. I'm in complete agreement with Lianne. I think the larger listed companies especially actively started addressing the codes a number of years ago. And they have generally been fairly proactive in getting themselves rated and being quite realistic about what their level is. Yes, we're seeing a reduction in levels across all companies, but we must remember that in essence it's a rebasing, because relative to your peers, you still are on a similar level to what they were. The real problem that I'm seeing at the moment is in those smaller companies, in those qualifying small enterprises, where frequently they just don't have the resources, the manpower, the time often to actively focus on these. And I think they've got a big surprise when they started going from a reasonable level, because they could exclude certain aspects, and suddenly they're being required to comply across all levels, and they're going from what was a reasonable level beforehand to a non-compliant level often at the moment. And I think that's caused a lot of dismay in the market, but I think it's also focusing the mind and making sure that they understand what their baseline is at the moment and where to improve. I think the DTI's approach in the whole change as well was to try to move away from a compliance for the sake of compliance and doing the low-hanging fruits of certain of the older elements that you could score pretty well on, and saying stop focusing on compliance, start focusing on just doing the right thing, and the points will come out as they are.
And Lianne, I see you nodding along with what Duncan was saying there when it comes to qualifying small enterprises. But on the other side of that equation, Nomzamo of Empowerdex last night was saying that one of the unintended consequences that we're seeing through the codes is that QSE, so those with turnover under 50 million, may actually be entering into BEE deals specifically to avoid compliance with the regulation.
Well, that's definitely an interesting topic. And basically what would happen over there is you've got your special dispensation. If you're a 51% black-owned company, you're automatically a level 2, and 100% black-owned automatically a level 1. So if companies are doing that, I personally haven't seen too much of that happening, especially to get to a 51% ownership stake. And the reason I say that is because if a company is selling 51%, and please note I say the word selling, they don't own the business anymore. In fact, if I was in that situation, I would want to meet with that black shareholder, not the white shareholder owning the 49%. I have heard that a lot of things like that obviously do happen. I think that you can't get away from the fact that you need to be implementing something that is more sustainable. The whole plan and the whole intention of being in business, never mind BEE, but being in business, is to grow your business. So once you have grown above your 50 million rand turnover in any event, you have to follow the entire scorecard. So it might be a short-sighted and a very quick approach to getting a very good level, which I can identify with Duncan in saying that the old scorecard, QSEs could easily get to a level 2 or a level 1 because they only chose 4 of the 7 elements. Now you have to follow all 5 elements. You cannot pick and choose anymore. More so, you have to focus on ownership, at least a 10% share, so that you don't get discounted by one level, and then either skills development or enterprise and supplier development, otherwise you do get discounted further.
And Jeff, the struggle is for small businesses who don't have the capacity to perhaps focus on some of those areas.
The ownership, as Lianne says, 10% is not that big a deal. Most small businesses can do some kind of deal and get a 10% ownership. 40% of your economic interest needs to be fulfilled. Your skills can quite easily be fulfilled on the QEC scorecard. It's not difficult. And your procurement depends on which sector you are, but procurement can be a problem. Enterprise and supply development, something like in Yossi, it's sorted out for you. You don't have to worry about that kind of thing yourself. It's also on your balance sheet, so you're not spending the money every year. So yes, It's really not that difficult if you just put a bit of effort and focus into it.
Well, we just have to take a quick break from the panel, and when we return, I'd like to focus on the compliance element, because it certainly came through from Zodwa yesterday that the Commission's going to be taking a bit of a stick approach to this, and very often we see companies have actually set 2 to 3 year goals or targets for themselves. So perhaps it's a little bit too soon to be talking about that approach. You're listening to the BEE panel, brought to you by Inyosi Enterprise and Supply Development.
For the best in television entertainment, tune in to Classic FM for the DSTV #Own 2017 promotion and win big. This week you have the opportunity to win R500 daily and double your winnings to R1,000 by simply being or becoming a subscriber. It's simple. Tune in to your favorite presenter between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. and answer the DSTV question of the day along with your contact details and ID number by SMSing #Own 2017 to 33903 or go to www.classicfm.co.za. Then listen out the next day to hear if you are a winner. All DSTV subscribers can also win the once-in-a-lifetime grand prize to attend a recording of The Daily Show with Trevor Noah in New York. For more details, go to www.dstv.com/premium. #Own 2017 with Classic FM and DSTV. SMSs are charged at a standard rate of R1.50. Terms and conditions apply.
Writer Jean Perrott once quipped about retirement, "It's nice to get out of the rat race, but you have to learn to get along with less cheese." 10X Investments, Classic FM and Planning Retirement will sort the cheesy quotes from the facts at an upcoming retirement planning seminar, whether you're approaching retirement or just starting out on this journey. Decision making at retirement is absolutely key, and this seminar covers topics such as transition risk and choosing the appropriate retirement products, whether guaranteed annuities or living annuities, and the principles of investing in retirement. Join us on the 4th of April at the Bryanston Country Club from 8:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. Tickets for this great event are now on sale. Just visit classicfm.co.za and click on the retirement planning banner to book your seat. All roads lead to retirement. The quality of the destination is up to you. Well, welcome back to this panel tonight. It's unfortunately been a very short panel because of the fluid news day that we had with the death of Ahmed Kathrada and the swirling rumour and speculation over what's going to be happening to the finance minister and the cabinet reshuffle. But we're talking about black economic empowerment and the experience, some of the practical issues up to this point. And Duncan, I'd like to get your opinion on the approach that's being taken by the DTI and the Commission at this stage, to say that they are quite clearly unhappy with the levels of compliance that we're seeing. Only 27 companies having filed so far of the listed entities that have reported year ends to December 31. But if you think about it, many companies have probably set 2 to 3 year goals for improving their scorecards on the back of these amendments. So I suppose government needs to be conscious that they need to encourage compliance, because the stick approach is likely to have limited appeal.
Yeah, I think we've got to be quite realistic that, as Lianne said, they have been around for a very long time. The codes, I mean, they were first gazetted in 2013, but they're actually only really starting to come into play now. That we've seen in about the last 9 to 12 months far more verifications occurring according to the new codes, and that is the point in time when companies get a true reflection of what their new score looks like. And especially with listed companies, these are big vehicles to turn. And I'm doing some work currently with a couple of very large listed companies, and we are setting 3-year goals to try and get them to get them back to where they were. But when you're talking about billions, when you're talking about procurement, and you're talking not about 10 million rand procurement, you're talking about billions of procurement. It is difficult to comply, because sometimes there just aren't. There isn't the ability, and there aren't the suppliers out there to enable these very large entities. Employment equity, management control can happen a bit quicker, but employment equity is also a reasonably slow mover to try and get it in line with the demographics. So I would say a 2 to 3 year horizon is fair.
Lianne, this is a journey and not a destination after all.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm actually just thinking over here that even in the future you can have everything in place. I mean, you can try and do as much skills development as possible, but when you are talking about big entities, you're talking 100 million rand on skills development. In terms of procurement, also multi-billion rand spends. And one of the biggest things I'm getting very, very nervous about for the future is the fact that all of those suppliers at the moment have their good levels because they still rated on the old codes. As we move into more and more companies getting a certificate based on the new codes, that level 2 QSE is going to turn into a level 6 on the new scorecard, which is going to have a very big impact to your client's procurement. So it is something that obviously you have to plan for. In fact, we've even started planning for taking into account all of those drops to see what you're going to be in the future. But as I said earlier, without a sustainable plan, without looking at it from a sustainable viewpoint, it might not be, it's not going to be something that's going to be implemented overnight. It's definitely a long-term process.
And you're not going to extract the sort of value that you can if you approach this strategically. And I've heard some very interesting supplier development stories that are really cutting edge and thinking about this strategically, about developing new markets, new consumers at the same time as getting your points on the codes as well. Unfortunately, we've run over time tonight, as I always seem to do of late. I've really got to start keeping a closer eye on the watch there, Doozy. That's all the time we have for. Thanks to Lianne Levenstein, CEO of EconoBEE, and Jeff Morley, founder of the BEE Guru, for joining us in studio, and on the line from Cape Town, Duncan de Groot of Carvel Capital.